If you're serious about learning piano and you've been putting in the time, the effort to practice each day, but after weeks and months you're not seeing the progress you would hope to see, that's most likely because you're doing it wrong. Yep. It's not about the amount of time you spend practicing. It's about what you do in that practice session that will multiply over the course of weeks and months and years. So if you're not doing it right, then in a matter of months, you're still not going to see the progress you would like to see. So in this tutorial, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 categories that every musician needs to be focusing on. Doesn't matter if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. If you want to be able to see growth from A to Z, these are the 5 categories you must be working on. So stay tuned, and I'm going to talk about how you can begin to make some serious growth in your playing by focusing on these categories. Welcome, my piano lovers and gospel music lovers. My name is Warren McPherson. And hey, if you're new to the channel, just to let you know what we do over here, we teach how to play gospel music by ear. That's it. You want to play gospel music, whether it's old school, new school, CCM, whatever it is, we teach it here on the topic. We talk about theory, chord progression, techniques, ear training, everything you need to take you to the next level. So if you want to stay up to date with the content we will release every Wednesday, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be notified when I post new content. Okay, so today's topic of discussion is, how do I make progress on the piano? I'm sure a lot of you guys have been watching YouTube for years. You're probably following 17 different piano channels, but you're still not seeing the growth that you'd like to see. It's not that you're not practicing, you're practicing, so why am I not progressing? Well, again, it's not about how much YouTube videos you watch, how many channels you follow. None of those things matter. It's not even about the amount of hours you spend practicing. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, hey, how many hours I need to spend a day practicing? That is completely irrelevant. Most people, the average person, probably have like maximum an hour a day to practice. You know, if you have kids and a job and if you're doing school and all of that. So it's not about trying to find 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day to practice. In fact, I wouldn't recommend me spending that much time practicing. It's about how you practice and what you practice. Those are the 2 things that I found to be most important. I've been studying and practicing and learning piano for 17 years now and teaching piano. And in my analysis of how can I help my students to learn to move from A to B to C to, continue down the alphabet, how do I help them to see progress? And the 5 categories is what I keep coming back to. So what are those categories? Ear training, technique, theory, progression practice, and repertoire. Repertoire is just a fancy name for saying the amount of songs you know or the amount of songs that you're practicing. We call that repertoire. Those are the 5 categories. Every time you sit at the piano, you should be tackling one of these categories. And from my perspective, you should be covering these 5 categories every week. You don't have to tackle each category each day. So you don't have to do all 5 categories each day. But within a week, you should tackle all 5. Now, there are a lot of creative ways you can do this. You can say, all right, I'm going to focus on one category each day. Today I work on ear training, tomorrow I work on technique, the other day I work on theory, then progression, practice. Or you can decide to do all of them in one day. Like, for example, you can take an hour and you can divide that by 5. 5 12's 60. So you spend 12 minutes on each category. So there are a lot of different ways you can do this to sort of fit your lifestyle, fit your learning pattern, and your preference. But at the end of the day, these 5 categories is a must. If you're not constantly hitting these 5 categories, you will not see the growth that you need to see. So let's sort of talk a little bit about each categories. Ear training. This channel is all about teaching you how to play music by ear. We don't really do any form of notation, reading, lessons here. Not that that is not important, but that's for another topic, whole nother discussion. If you want to be able to play by ear, then you have to be working on your ear training. And it's arguable that your ear training is the most important thing for people who want to play by ear. You have to be working on ear training exercises. What are some of those ear training exercises? The first one, the building block of ear training, is interval recognition. And I have tutorials and courses on all of the stuff. You have to be able to recognize intervals. The difference between a minor second and a major second. The difference between a minor third and a major third. Perfect fourth, augmented fourth, also known as a tritone. Perfect fifth, minor sixth, major seventh, minor seventh. If you're looking at me now saying, what is he talking about? Then you know that you have some work to do right there. You have to be able to know what these intervals are, but most importantly, you have to be able to hear them. If someone plays a perfect fifth, you want to be able to go, that's a perfect fifth. If someone plays an octave, you want to be able to say, that's an octave. Interval recognition. But that's not just something you just wake up one morning and boom, you're able to recognize your intervals. No, it takes practice, it takes training. How you do all those things, again, you need sort of guidance, lessons, courses. We have all of that here. Piano Lesson with Warren, we got a bunch of stuff. Or even just right here in the YouTube channel, if you check into the playlist, you'll see some ear training tips and guidelines that I've put out. Another aspect of ear training is chord progression, chord progressions and chord quality recognition. If I play a 1 to a 6, you want to be able to tell that's a 1 to a 6. If I play a 1 to a 2, you want to be able to tell that's a 1 to a 2. What if I do a 1 to a dominant 2? So all of that stuff, you want to be able to hear the different quality of the chords, and you want to be able to hear the movements of the chord. That's a part of ear training. And again, there are methods as to how you start to practice the stuff. Over at pianolessonwithwarren.com, I have an ear training course that walks you through the tips and exercises to do each day to strengthen this ability. Because again, it's not that easy, and it's definitely not something that will just happen on its own. No, you have to take some effort. You got to put some time in, some diligence, and some consistency to work on this stuff. There are other areas of ear training, but those are sort of the two main important ones. First, being able to identify intervals and then movements of chords, which involves also getting into the bass line and stuff like that. So if you want to know more about ear training, head over to pianolessonwithwarren.com and check out our ear training course, or just click the link in the description of the video and that will take you there. The next one down the line is technique. Technique. Another hugely overlooked category for pianists. A lot of people don't even know why they need to have technique. Well, think about it this way. The phrase that I like to use is technique is your musical vehicle. Think about if you're trying to get from point A to point B, and the distance between point A to point B is 10 miles. You could walk the 10 miles or you could drive the 10 miles. Which one's going to get you there significantly faster? Driving. Think of technique that way. You want to be able to play your scales. See, I can play my scales easily and effortless like that because this is something I've been working on for the better part of 17 years. Technique helps you to move across the piano with a lot more efficiency, clarity, speed, and control. When you see people playing all those fast songs and they're playing these licks and lines and runs, and it's so clean, and they're doing that improvisatory, meaning on the spot, able to just do all those things. All of that control and speed and clarity stems from having a solid technique. So technique is something you have to make a priority. You need to be practicing technique exercises every week. What are some of the things you do to build technique? Well, the biggest one is scales. A lot of people know that one. But when you're practicing scales, there are a lot of other things you're learning. You're learning about keys. You're learning about fingerings. You're learning about scale movements, lines. But you're building what we call dexterity. These muscles in the fingers are being strengthened. And that's where the control comes from. The ability to be able to play a key with different velocity. That's control. All of those things comes from technique. Other technique building exercises involves arpeggios, blocked chords, broken chords, so those are just some things. Practicing scales in octave, chromatic. And there are a whole host of other technique building exercises. You have Czerny, you have Hanon. Those are other things. These are all technique building exercises. You don't have to do all of them. For example, I don't do Hanon. I haven't done any form of Hanon exercise in probably over 12 years because there are other ways you can build technique. However, if you're currently using Hanon and you like it, you find it's working, that's great. It's a great tool. Just let you know that it's not mandatory. You don't have to, especially if you find it to be a bit monotonous, like what I did, which is why I stopped using it. Again, we have some great technique building courses over at pianolessonwithwarren.com if you want more details on that. Links in the description. Down the line, category number 3 that every pianist should be focusing on. And when I say every pianist, if you bought a keyboard yesterday and just start learning all the stuff, meaning you're a brand new beginner, this is what you need to make your roadmap, these categories that we're talking about. One of the biggest things is for people who are more seasoned players who have been doing this for 10 years already, it's hard for them to get into this new routine. But if you're a beginner, meaning you're fresh off the press, you're ready for molding. This is the perfect opportunity for you to adopt all these great ideas and technique and sort of just proper way of doing things so you can build it, make it a part of your routine, your habit. It will save you a lot of years and stress if you do this that I'm recommending right now. So theory. What is theory? Well, theory is just basically telling you or explaining to you the what and the how. When you see someone sit at the piano and just play all this crazy, cool, advanced stuff, what are they doing? The theory is to help you to understand the what. Then the theory also explains the why. Why did someone do... How did they know those chords would work? How do they know what voicing to use? How do they know what quality chords to use? How do they know what lick to go over which chords? Everything that is done on the piano, there's an explanation to it. There's a why behind it. There's a theory behind it. There are rules of harmony. We don't just pull random chords and just play them. There are rules about why certain chords work well together. There are rules about changing chord quality. You know, we're playing in the key of C. We know that 1, 4, 5 should be major chord. But what if I want to make the 4 minor? There are certain rules about doing that. And once you change the quality of a chord, it sort of opens up rooms and opportunity and pathways for you to go other directions with the chord progressions. There are rules about how you can create these different routes. So theory explains all of that stuff. And so you should spend a fair amount of time throughout your week understanding the why. Over at Piano Lesson with Warren, we have tons of song breakdown tutorials. And these song breakdown tutorials does 2 things. For one, it teaches you how to play the song, so you can sit and play the song. But it's not just me showing you the chords for you to just copy. No, I explain to you why these chords are arranged the way they are. if there was a passing chords used, I explained to you why this passing chords was used. So at the end of each of these song tutorials that we provide, you learn how to play the song, and you also sort of get a peek behind the scene into the mind of the composer as to why these chords work. Why were these chords used in this fashion? One of the questions I get a lot is, how do I voice 11th chords and 13th chords? How do I know where to put them so they sound good? This is a theoretical problem that requires theoretical explanation. So the song breakdown tutorials opens up this avenue for you to be able to see, in the practical sense, the application of these chords. So that's what theory entails. Moving down the line to category number 4. This is what I call the progression practice, or the isolated progressions. There are so many different chords and chord voicings, chord quality, and combination of chords that can be used. It's not something you're going to just master in a week or two, or even months. I've been in the music scene and the piano scene for 17 years, and I'm still learning new chord voicing. I'm still learning new chord structure. It's one of those lifelong thing that you take on. And so you need to set time aside to practice progressions. Because when we're practicing progressions, we're doing two things. We're learning these voicings and chords and progressions from a mental standpoint, but we're also training our fingers, what we call the kinesthetic training, to be able to quickly find these chords without thinking. When I'm playing and I'm reharmonizing chords, I don't think about what chord this is. I mean, I know what chord it is. It's C7 sharp 5 sharp 9. But if I had to sit there and think about what notes are in C7 sharp 5 sharp, I would never be able to play the song. But because I've been practicing these different chords and voicings for so long, my fingers can find them effortless. And so progression practice helps to sharpen that ability to quickly find chords. You can argue that also progression practice is a form of technique building, chordal technique building. So that's why you need to set time aside to practice progressions. And over at Piano Lesson with Warren, I think we have 5 different courses that spans from beginner to advanced that teaches you all the different popular progressions in all 12 keys. Now I'm talking about, we start from triads, then we go up to 7ths, then we go to 9ths, then we go to 11th, 13ths, and then we go to altered extended chords. Each of these courses walk you through the process of progression practice. And now, these things, again, I'm telling you, they take time. So I'm not saying within a week or 2 or 3, you're going to master all this stuff. No. What I'm trying to explain to you in this video is that this is the path of least resistance. There's work, but it's going to help you get from point A to B a lot faster than what you're currently doing now, which is to binge watch a bunch of videos and just sit at the piano with no plan and practice random stuff. Now, side note, if you want to see all of these different categories explained in more detail, the practice template, my free practice template, I have currently 2. A beginner's practice template and an intermediate practice template. And very soon, I'm coming out with the intermediate advanced practice template. You can click the link in the description below and download it for free. I have some videos explaining exactly each categories in details, and I have a PDF sheet that you can work from. I also have some included files that allows you to edit the PDF, so if you want to change things to suit you, you can do that. But without a plan, you don't really have a purpose. If you want to see growth, it has to be something that's planned, something that is practiced over the course of weeks, months, and years. So progression practice, that's what it entails. Moving down the line to the last category, repertoire. Now remember, repertoire involves songs. At the end of the day, you want to learn the piano so you can play songs. And so I've come across students who, for the past 2 years, they've done nothing but practice isolated chord progressions and scales. How many songs do you know? None. That's kind of a waste of time. At the end of the day, songs is what you want to be able to play. And so I always recommend that you spend at least 40 to 50% of your practice time working on songs. That's where you get to see the ear training in action. That's where you get to utilize the technique. That's where you get to see the theory in action. That's where you get to use these isolated progressions that you've been working on in actual songs. The voicing, all of these things. The song, learning songs is the practical application. Like take, for example, this little analogy. If you're going to school to be a mechanic, you take all your courses, all your classes about being a mechanic, you learn about engines and oils and electrical wiring. You know, you learn all of that stuff. But until you actually take a car and either tear it apart or put it back together, you won't really understand what it takes to be a mechanic, how to be able to detect problems, fix problems. You've got to take a car and pull it apart and then put it back together. Piano playing is no different. The first 4 categories that I listed, ear training, technique, theory, progression, practice, those are sort of like isolated technical and theoretical things that you're learning. The songs, learning the songs now is where all of that comes together. All those 4 categories we spoke about now comes together as one, and that's when you see everything lights up in front of you. That's when you start to hear things. During the repertoire or practice sessions, that will pose its own problem. Like, for example, now it's going to start test your memory of memorizing the song. There are tips and tricks to learning songs to make it easier. And again, we talk about all this stuff over at Piano Lesson with Warren, when we talk about stuff like the melody is king. When you're learning a song, first thing you need to learn is the melody. And when I say learn the melody, I'm talking about from a mental perspective. I know hundreds of songs from memory. Every one of those songs, I can hum you the melody. I may not know the lyrics to most of these songs, but I can hum you the melodic line. And that's because when you have a melody to follow, then you have something to attach that chord progression to, and the memory can memorize melodic lines a lot easier and faster than the progression. So you need to be able to link your chord progressions to melodic lines. So when someone says they're learning a song and they can't hum you the melody at all, that's going to take you significantly longer to learn the song, because at that case, chord progressions without a melody just becomes isolated progressions. There's nothing memorable about it, really. When you attach a melody to it, now it becomes a song. It becomes now this cohesive package that the brain can memorize longer. Remember, humans have been singing around firesides for hundreds of years. That genetic trait's been passed down to all of us. We can memorize melodies a lot easier than all these complex chord progressions. But once we combine melody with chords, then the brain has something to latch on to. So that's just a little tip for when you're working on your songs. All the songs you're working on, spend some time learning the melody first. I always like to spend some days before, if I'm learning a new song, just listening to the song, learning the lyrics, learning the melody. So when time comes for me to work on the chord progression now, I have something to follow, a melodic line, and that's how I can quickly tell when certain voicings don't work. As a side note, this is not another big problem when someone say, how do I know which voicing to use when I'm using these complex chords? The melody should dictate what voicing you use. Because if the chord progression is clashing with the melody, you got to change it. But if you don't know the melody, you don't know what's clashing. Anyway, so those are the 5 categories I wanted to talk to you guys about today. You know, each week I come on, I'm showing you guys fancy chords, licks, lines, and all these cool tricks. But really, none of that matters if you're not able to sort of package all of this in a more streamlined fashion that you can practice. Remember, if you don't practice, you don't improve. But it's hard to practice when you don't know what to practice or how to practice. especially when you have limited amount of time. One of the biggest questions or problems I get from people is that, oh, I'm not able to practice right now. I'm not able to practice right now. What if you spin that around and say, what can I do to make my practicing more efficient? Because if you know exactly what you should be practicing and how you should be practicing it, then that takes a lot of the stress, the anxiety, and the frustration out of practicing. You know you got 30 minutes to practice. You know exactly what you're going to practice today. You sit, boom, you knock out that 30 minutes. And if you're able to maintain a structure like that over the course of months, that's when you're going to see huge improvement. But I'm telling you, after 17 years of studying piano and teaching piano, I have never seen anyone make progress without practicing. The structure I'm giving you here is going to help you to progress a lot faster. Wandering into the musical forest without any plan is going to take you 20 years to make any form of significant improvement. With this method, you could take 20 years and knock it down into 5. I'm 35 years old now, and I started piano at 18 years old. When I tell some people that, they don't believe. They say, you play like you've been playing since you're 5 years old. The knowledge you have about music seems like you've been doing this since you're 5. But it's because I was fortunate to get tutors who helped me to realize that this whole piano journey, there's a method to it. It's not just random sitting down every day and trying to just practice the first thing that pops into your mind or practice every new shiny thing you see someone do on YouTube. That's not how you make progress. You need structure, you need discipline, you need a format. You need something that teaches you the why, the how, the what, the when, all of that good stuff. So when you couple your practice template with some good courses, you're unstoppable. All right? So that's all I have for you guys this week. The links to download the free practice templates is in the description below. This will go a lot more in details on the 5 categories that we just talked about. Ear training, technique, theory, progression, practice, and repertoire. If you're not tackling all 5 of these categories every week, then you're doing a huge disservice to yourself. Click the links in the description and let's make some progress, yeah? We're halfway through the year of 2020. Let's make some good use of the remaining half, all right? Again, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, give me a like, thumbs up, remember to hit that notification bell, and let me hear in the the comments below what you're currently struggling with. Let me know if any of these 5 categories that I would just talk about, if you've been ignoring them. Let me know also which of these categories you've been spending most of your time on, or which of these categories you're most struggling with. Let's discuss all of that in the comment sections below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And hey, if you would even want to take your piano playing to a new heights, Piano Lesson with Warren is a great membership for gospel musicians. We have courses, we have song tutorials, we have live trainings, we have assignment uploads, we have quizzes, we have lead sheets, we have scores, we have cheat sheets, MIDI files, backing tracks, all of those things. And plus you have me at your disposal to help guide you along the way. PianoLessonWithWarren.com will definitely transform your musical experience and musical learning so you can finally start to see some progress, right? Especially if you're frustrated at this, I have some tools that will definitely help you. So head over to PianoLessonWithWarren.com and check that out. Until then, we always say keep listening, keep singing, and keep practicing, because this is how you'll continue to grow as a musician. See you next week, and have a blessed week.